it's been a kind of press conference a month in the making, hasn't it? In your own thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you've got to get used to as a modern day player. You know, the media is a huge part of the industry that we're in now, and I think it's certainly benefited the game. You know, it gives everybody within the game fantastic opportunities. You know, you walk around even in a year out of football, being the other side of, you know, poacher kind of turned gamekeeper, being your side of the fence, working for TalkSport this year. I've got a deeper understanding of how everything's interconnected, you know, and sometimes I think as a player or as a coach or maybe even as an owner, you can feel you're getting a lot of pressure, and you can feel that maybe the media is a little bit unfair at times, and then working the other side of it, you realise that there is a job to do and that it's a two-way street. And I think as long as there's mutual respect on both sides, it's for the benefit of the game. I mean, as we've seen this week with you know, the England squad and what's gone on there, I think, you know, if England are serious about being successful, I think the media and the national team have to be aligned. So hopefully they do get that in the summer. And, you know, for us, certainly for us as a football club, I think Andy's always been very open with the media. He's always been explaining the journey of the football club, and I get that, you know, some people will have questioned this appointment because I'm somebody who's coming out of a 13-month ban from the FA, and it's down to me to show the faith that this football club, and certainly Andy as an owner, has shown in me by giving me the opportunity. You know, I intend to pay that back 100-fold over the next 3 years.
You use the word player. Is the playing stopped? Are you going to register yourself to play manager?
I think I have to, if I'm serious about being the best possible version of myself in a coaching space. I think I have to put Joey Barton, the player, to bed. You know, so, you know, the takeout for you is probably the death of Joey Barton as a player. Some people will argue that that's a very good thing, but yeah, that obviously opens up Joey Barton, the coach. So you know, you close one chapter of your career, and I love playing. You know, it's something that I dreamt about doing from as long as I was consciously aware. And I was fortunate enough to achieve, you know, everything I dreamt of doing. You know, playing for England and playing in the Premier League for some phenomenal football clubs. But certainly since the age of about 28, 29, I've always wanted to coach. I've always thought I'd really love, you know, to coach and to stay in the game and give something back to the game after I wasn't able to play. The way that happened, I probably would have liked to have gone out under my own steam as opposed to getting an FA ban to put the final nail in the coffin. But the world works in mysterious ways, and, you know, I've got a fantastic opportunity at a really exciting period in this football club's history, and really looking forward to everything that brings.
Does Joey Barton, the manager, the coach, stay on social media?
I think he definitely has to alter the way he has used social media in the past, and I don't like talking about myself in the third person.
You started it.
Yeah, I'm starting to sound a little bit like Zlatan here, which is I should never really do. So yeah, I mean, it's like anything. You go through life, and you kind of, things that work for you in some regards don't necessarily work for you a bit further down the line. And the way I use social media initially, you know, being probably one of the first, you know, modern day players through the wall, it wasn't the way I would use it today, knowing what we know, knowing the way that landscape's changed. But at the time it was a new technology, and you have to use it the way you see best, and it wasn't always used for the right reasons and the right purposes. But on the whole, I think if I look at the Joey Barton journey on Twitter, again, third person things freaking me out a little bit. If we look at that journey, I think it was, you know, you look at what it was used for in terms of the Hillsborough campaign, the e-petition around that. So I'm incredibly proud of certain things it's been used for. There is obviously other things that I probably could have stayed away from on social media, but, you know, that's life, and you try and use that skill going forward. I don't think I'll be a massive communicator over the coaching journey and the coaching period, because you've got to use all your energies, you know, in the right way, and on the football pitch and on the training ground, and certainly with the players. And I don't think, you know, to use it the way you did as a player would be the right way to conduct myself going forward.
You know the way the media works. You know the rap sheet gets brought out time and time again. Joey did
rap
this.
Sheet?
Joey did this. Joey did that. The CV.
Yeah.
There's an argument that pressure's brought to bear, sometimes the response isn't right. Have you sorted that? Because there'll be pressure with this.
Oh, there's pressure with everything. Certainly, for all of us in everyday life, there's pressure. So you can look at the other side, which I tend to do. That when you've been through what I've been through, losing football games is not necessarily the end of the universe. I mean, it might be from Andy's point of view, but for me, there is a bigger picture. Yeah, we all want to be successful in football, but there's more to life in certain regards. And somebody who's experienced that roller coaster, I think even with the players, I'll be trying to help ease the pressure that can be in and around modern day football. And we're lucky in terms of the stuff that comes with being a public image, a public profile, stuff that you don't really have a skill set leaving school. I never ever thought I was going to leave school and become followed by X million on Twitter, and literally every time you put a song lyric or a throwaway quote, it's analysed and over-analysed, and you have that kind of intrusion in your life. And obviously being part of a football industry which has grown, as we spoke about earlier, in a visibility space. You can say something on Twitter and it makes news in Indonesia. That's the reality of it now. But to leave school without the skill set of dealing with that and kind of grow up in a public arena, which I had to do. I didn't have all the skills to deal with being famous, if that's what we are, or infamous. So I didn't have the skills leaving school to be able to cope with what modern day football threw at me. But as a 35-year-old ex-professional footballer, I certainly feel I've got a lot more skills than I had before, and obviously that comes with just naturally maturing and becoming a man. I'm not perfect, far from it, but I think I'm a lot better version than probably what I was when I started out my playing journey. And I think if you just keep that progress in mind and you keep moving in the right direction, I think life tends to reward you for that.
Last question for me to Andy. I mean, you have plenty of candidates who wanted this job. Why Joey, the retired footballer?
I think knowing Joey as I do, I think he's got all the attributes that are necessary to be a hugely successful manager in the modern game. I think he's intelligent. I think he's a good communicator. I think the energy that he brings along as part of the role, I think will inevitably be infectious with the players, and he's a winner. I've had great success in the past with rookie managers. We've played with managers that have started off on the journey, and we've won promotions in the past with Mickey Mellon, with Graham Alexander, and I think Joey has got everything it takes to be hugely successful. And when we sat down and we discussed the possibility, it just kind of clicked, I think, for both of us. And he thought, it's always been his intention to be a manager. I think it's a good fit. I think we'll be able to give him a really solid base and a good opportunity at a great club with a fantastic training ground, and he's as good as the people he's got around him. And we've got a really talented, committed team here at Fleetwood. And for so many reasons, I just think it makes perfect sense for both ourselves and for Joey.
I was just wondering, with the number of high-profile former players now gone into management in this last week, couple of weeks, Stephen obviously at Rangers, Frank at Derby, and you here. What kind of pressures do you think you've got compared to those other two?
Well, we're just going to seen on Sky this morning about Graham Potter maybe getting the Swansea job. So I think certainly when I've watched managerial appointments in the last 5 years, we all speak about in football about this kind of managerial merry-go-round, and for a number of reasons there hasn't been a fresh input, kind of new blood coming into it. So I think to see great players, which Stephen and Frank were, take a huge risk, because working in the media this year, you can work in the media and be well paid, and then boys are extremely well paid working where they were working. They've obviously earned fortunes via being very, very good footballers, and you have to take enormous amount. I'd certainly tip the hat to them, because they're taking a huge risk. I'm aware of how volatile the industry is. We only have to chart the course of a managerial merry-go-round during the season to see how many people coming in and out of jobs. And it's a huge leap of faith by them. You know, they must believe supremely in the talent to get off the punditry chair and step into the rigours of being a modern day manager and all the risk attached to that. You know, for me, when I look at it, I think as an aspiring young coach who wants to get into it, I always think it's as important to select your owner as it is to go to a club. They will face pressures, and you know, and no doubt they have a wealth of experience based on good and bad managers they've played with, and you know, good teams they've been in, and you know, they've played for some massive clubs. So I would expect them to show the same amount of rigour and, you know, give everything they did as they did as players to managerial, and I think they'll be excellent, the pair of them. You know, and usually slow, plodding midfielders tend to be good managers. They really, really do. When you look at it, when you look at the course of the journey, you know, Guardiola, best coach in the world, was a midfielder who had no pace, no skills. You know, you look at Pochettino, very, very similar profile. And I think if you chart the course of it, you look at any great manager, they tend to be of a certain type. And that's not saying that, you know, Zidane would probably book the trend, but he was a midfielder, you know. So I'm taking great refuge in the fact of midfielders tend to make really good coaches, mainly because if you think about it rationally, we're in the middle of the park, we're communicating at all times to you know, if I'm playing central midfield, I'll be talking to the left midfield, the right midfield, I'm keeping the defensive line where I need to keep it, keeping us connected to the forward line, and we're constantly communicating because we're at the hub of a team. So I think that's why probably midfielders are able to transfer those skills from playing to coaching, because we see all the pictures. I mean, I've had a laugh with players that say to be a central midfielder you need to have 360 vision all the time. You know, if you're a centre half, you kind of see the world there. If you're a centre forward, you kind of see the world with your back to goal. But as a midfielder, you've got to see everything at all times, and especially when you're one like me who had no skills, wasn't really quick, wasn't really big, wasn't really strong. To survive as long as you have to be able to scheme, to think about things differently, and I think that'll help me certainly to be a manager.